Weddings-ish, 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 with Jove.
This episode is brought to you by David's Bridal. At David's, love is in every stitch. From the initial sketch to the final look, each style is designed with beautiful craftsmanship and stunning details. Every wedding gown, bridesmaid look, prom dress, and special occasion styled in between features handcrafted details filled with love. Come see the magic in person, book an appointment, and join Diamond Loyalty to save 15% on your first purchase. Earn points towards special rewards and more at davidsbridal.com. Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to Weddings-ish with Jove, a podcast all about love, joy, and weddings-ish with a special guest each episode. I couldn't be more excited to be joined in studio by Emma Gray, writer and podcast host of Love to See It. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored.
I mean, of course, you just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And you were there.
I was there. You are my first podcast guest whose wedding I've attended.
Oh, well, then I'm super honored.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
It's like surreal because I'm asking you things and I might know the answer, but I'm going to pretend to be like, I don't know what you served at dinner.
That is the job of the interviewer. I love
100%.
it.
You yourself are also a podcast host.
Yes.
Love to See It. Tell me a little bit more about it.
So I co-host the Love to See It podcast. My co-host Claire Fallon and I dig into reality dating shows and rom-coms and basically romantic narratives from a feminist political perspective.
Yep.
So it's like a highbrow analysis of lowbrow content.
I love that. But who doesn't love the lowbrow content? I mean,
Exactly.
We cannot get enough of it.
Honestly, it's a Trojan horse
100%.
into important things. And reality TV says so much about the way that our culture looks at love and sex and dating. And so that's what the show really digs into.
And that's the way that you look at the lens that you take when you
Exactly.
sort of have the commentary about the show.
Yes.
Did you love, like, or dislike this season of Love is Blind in comparison to other seasons?
I found the first drop to be a bit interminable.
Oh, yep. And long.
6 episodes is too many in the pods. They can't do that to us.
And nothing was happening.
And we were really focused on like a love quadrangle of people who didn't make it out of the pods. So I was like a little bit out. And I think that's why a lot of people decided they didn't like the season.
Yeah, they weren't interested.
But personally, I think it really picked up. And by the reunion, I was like,
yeah, but that's like 12 episodes in. You had to really commit to get to the reunion. The reunion was good.
I think after episode 6, it picks up.
Really? I mean, they went on the honeymoon and I just feel like in previous seasons, when the contestants see each other, there's always like
there's no
potential.
Drama. That's why we only saw like half an episode.
Because there's nothing. They're so nice. Like Midwest. Are they in the Midwest?
Yes. They're Midwest,
like Midwest nice.
That's why they take a bit of time. And then then by the end, you're like, no, half of these men are not it.
I mean, the reunion was literally like the epic failure of men trying to pretend they want to be in relationships. The ineptitude of men.
And also the like widening political gap between men and women and how that's affecting the dating market.
100%. And the social activism or human rights. I don't even want to call it socialism, like human rights. And these women were so clear from the start. Like, my sister is gay and I believe, you know, that Black people should live an equal life to white people.
Or
like from the start.
You have Virginia, who's literally has a PhD in racial bias in healthcare. She ends up with this bro who's like a sneaky MAGA.
Yes, sneaky MAGA, like a few of them.
Yeah, it was not. So I was fascinated by those dynamics. So I ended up getting super into the season, but it was like a rough and slow start.
Yeah. And I just was like, why was that really handsome guy there that never matched up with anyone else?
Wait, who?
He's kind of tall. And remember at the reunion of the last season, they announced 3 people from the upcoming cast? I forgot his name. He never went to the honeymoons. He never got married. But he's like charming, good looking. But he never married anyone. But he was at the reunion and he was like...
Oh, Alex?
Alex.
Oh, no. He's very bad news, Jove.
But why was he on there? so much if he never got matched up or never got married?
I think just because he was in that like Madison
Triangle.
I
see. You don't think he's going to be in another show? Like they're teasing
No, because
him?
there's very bad rumors out there about him. Like, you Google it. It's not good.
I will literally write it. Toot Sweet after this, that's what I'm doing. But I also don't understand people who go on reality shows who think their secrets will stay.
It's always the men.
Like, do you think the world is not going to find out?
Or I think they just like don't even know. I think there's a lack of awareness that some of the behavior might be concerning or might have affected people in a way that if they get this big platform, people are going to be like, you are becoming a professional dater.
Yes, literally.
I have concerns.
Yeah, like I'm not interested in that.
Right. So I think it is like there is like a level of delulu that some of these people have.
A lot. Like literally the reunion was also the women and their glow ups. They came looking...
They like stood on business.
Tens across the board.
And
then they were eloquent and they were educated and they were not angry and they were just like, here's the facts, here's my feelings, and we're moving on.
Also, I love when two of the women would pop in and be like, oh, we were there at the bar.
When they fact checked the men.
I did witness that conversation.
Yes. 100%.
I'm like, what I learned is that everyone in Minneapolis in a certain like social cohort goes to like the same three
few bars.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they all really know each other.
Every single one of them was like, when we ran into each other at the bars over the last year for the 7th time, I was like, are there only 2 bars?
I guess so. Must be like small town dating in that kind of a regard.
Small big city.
Small big city. And we have another city they announced? Or we don't know? It's officially Denver.
It's officially Denver.
So is that going to be a little edgier or still like nice crunchy granola people?
I don't know because Minneapolis is like a very diverse and varied city, and the people that they ended up casting
or that we ended up seeing
that's true,
some
or
of the
they
other
ended
couples
ended
up featuring exactly
was a little bit more like white bread. So I hope we get a bigger mix in Denver.
And when did you start your podcast? Because obviously we could talk about reality TV all day because this is my also happy place, but not, what we're here to do.
Right. This is a weddings-ish podcast.
So I love to see it began when?
In 2015, actually.
It's been 10 years?
10 years this year.
Cheers to you.
Thank you.
Decade.
Thank you. It was called something else. It used to be called Here to Make Friends.
Okay.
And now it's called Love to See It, and it's been 10 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And you and Adam,
Yes.
The cutest. Your wedding was so beautiful.
Thank
we
you.
had the best time. I had too many lychee martinis.
Good, as you
to
should.
count. I started off strong. I'm not a big drinker, but I went right to the bar pre-ceremony and got a lychee martini.
This was one of my favorite things about our venue.
Yeah.
Is that they were like, yes, of course the full bar will be open.
The whole time.
The whole time from the 30 minutes before the ceremony starts.
Yes, and it was.
And it was.
And I was shocked because you usually get like a Prosecco or a champagne or like water. And he was like, no problem. And I was like, thank you so much. Just all night long when you see me, I'm a lychee martini guy. So you and Adam, it was so sweet. It was so cute. We're going to talk all about it. But I want to rewind to your love story because it's so adorable. You've kind of woven in and out of each other's lives for over a decade before you came together. So when was the first time you met Adam?
So I met Adam when I was boarding a plane from San Juan. Puerto Rico to New York City in February 2012.
Oh, like way back. Like that's over a decade ago.
Yes.
Okay.
So at the time, he was actually chatting on OkCupid.
Oh, I remember when that was a thing.
This was
Pre-Tinder.
Before Tinder. This was before the apps. It was on desktop.
Yeah.
I feel like we're really aging ourselves.
I was literally like, yeah. And then I'm like, oh God, yeah, that is true. I would be like, did you ever do Plenty of Fish?
No, but I remember it. I remember feeling like a lot of them were like bad and they were sort of like for older people. And then OkCupid was the first one that was like every young person was on OkCupid.
Yes. And they asked like edgier questions.
Yeah, exactly. So like everyone that I knew was on OkCupid
Okay.
if you were doing like online dating in New York City.
So he was chatting with another girl at that time.
Yes. Sir, he was chatting with my friend Kate.
Oh, your friend?
Yes.
Not just another girl.
No. My friend Kate on OkCupid.
Okay.
And the connection between me and Adam is that our mutual friend, Laura,
Yes.
went to college with him.
Which is how they knew each other.
That is how they knew each other. And I was with Laura on this trip in Puerto Rico. And Kate, like the three of us were very close friends.
Okay.
And still are very close friends. And so when we lined up to board this plane, Laura looked over and said, oh, that's the Stanford guy that Kate's been chatting with.
What? Just randomly?
Yeah. She's like, they were supposed to go on a date like the next week.
Yeah.
So we had a good laugh about it.
Sure. And that was it.
Yeah. We were like, this is hilarious. She introduced me to Adam. It was no romantic spark. He was like an inside joke.
He's cute.
I did think he was cute, but it was like he's going on a date with my friend.
It's like an airplane clothes. Yeah, it wasn't. You weren't in the mindset of being like, I'm looking for a man.
No. Also, this is an important detail. At the time, Laura and I, we were in our early 20s. We were not good about SPF. I am now,
so you were like
really dedicated,
sunburnt,
severe.
Because this is the end of your vacation.
Severely sunburned. Like
I see this.
Just bright red, peeling. I mean, it was not cute.
So you're also just sort of like, oh God.
Yeah, we had been told, we had been approached by a woman in the Walgreens in Puerto Rico. This old woman took pity on us, and she was like, girls.
Because it was that bad.
Put white wine vinegar all over your bodies.
Oh, wow. That bad.
So we showed up to the airport bright red
Understand.
and probably smelling like vinegar.
Sure.
So it was not the sexiest
waved your little
vibe.
Fingers and you were like, let's get on this plane right now.
Yeah. And we laughed about it. We were like, this is hilarious.
And then you obviously weren't thinking about him. He wasn't thinking about you.
No.
And when's the next time your paths crossed?
So we ended up at a mutual friend's birthday brunch at some point. A friend of both of theirs from college who was coming into town from LA. And maybe, I think around then, that was July, we became Facebook friends after that. Because it was
Facebook.
just
okay, Cupid. Facebook.
I know, but
dating
put yourself
in
back
100%.
to 2012. It was when young people were still on Facebook.
Who friended who?
I probably friended him. I don't know. I think I did.
Did he poke you? Did you poke him?
No,
do you remember that feature?
Oh, God, that was weird. I never used that.
But it was a little flirty. You never used it?
It was flirty, but I was
too creepy for you.
Out. Yeah, too creepy.
So friended each other on Facebook months later.
Just because, you did.
Why not?
You just friended everyone you ever met.
It was pre-LinkedIn. It was all that.
Yes. Yeah. And so because of that, social media connection, then I think we would just pop up in each other's digital lives over the years. Yeah.
And at that time, it's were you posting your food and everything you were doing?
Who knows? I mean, mostly, I think I posted a lot of my work at that time. I was working at HuffPost. So
your articles,
I used Facebook mostly to promote my work as we all kind of shifted off of Facebook and 100%. Onto Instagram, but we were still using Facebook to promote.
More actively than today, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I don't even remember the last time I signed on.
I have it for my grandma, but then she joined Instagram, and I'm like, what are we still doing here?
Yeah, my grandma's on Instagram now, too. I think I'm only on Facebook at this point because I'm in a couple, Facebook groups, and they're a really great place to lurk and make low-stakes digital enemies.
Oh, interesting.
If you just want to work
that
out your
online angst.
Yeah. And just judge people with
is the place to go.
Impact. Yeah, Facebook groups.
Good to know. Yeah. And Facebook Marketplace, I will say.
Also, yes, I do use Facebook Marketplace. Those are the two reasons to go on Facebook.
There's really no other reason for it today.
Yeah.
Okay, so you connected on Facebook and then sent a message or just kind of kept up with each other?
Just kind of kept up with each other. And I think there were times over the years that maybe we ran into each other on a street corner or but it was not a thing. He went to business school, so he moved out of the city for a couple years. And then in March 2019 is when we matched on Hinge.
Okay. So you were now on a modern dating app.
Yes.
With an application.
Yes.
And you matched, and were you surprised to see each other? Or was it sort of of course I'm running into him again?
I think it was more like that. And I also think we actually maybe had matched on Bumble a year before, but never messaged each other.
Which is how it goes. But Bumble, you would have had to message, right?
Yeah, and I think it's at least at the time how Bumble worked, it was you had only 24 hours
to message,
and then they only had 24 hours to respond. And
otherwise,
if you didn't,
deleted.
Deleted
To make it serious.
Yeah, so I think
it
just I don't
You were
really
too
remember what
busy
happened,
to
but
do
we
that.
didn't connect.
Okay. So maybe So Airplane, Facebook, maybe Bumble, and then a real love match on Tinder. You both
On
swipe
Hinge.
on Hinge. You both.
Yes.
You don't swipe on Hinge. You both chose each other, right? Is that
You
like
swipe,
you heart?
You heart.
You like.
Yeah,
You both liked each
I don't
other.
know. Now it's been a while.
I know. I'm sort of like over here
Yeah.
swiping. Like
It's
so
all
you
swiping.
both liked each other,
Yeah.
and then you matched, and then who messaged who?
He messaged me.
And what did he say?
He said, "Fancy seeing you here."
With like a winky face, or just
No.
he's more of a period guy. I feel like.
Yeah. I think maybe a wave emoji.
And that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And then when did you go on a first date?
A few days later.
A few days later?
Yeah.
So like all this time had passed and you hadn't thought about each other and now you're going on a first date.
Yeah. And he said something like, "Oh, I saw that you wrote a book or something." Because again, we were Facebook friends.
Yeah, so you knew each other's life
Yeah,
updates and work
yeah.
updates.
And it was funny because it was actually the same week that I was going with Kyle actually to go wedding dress shopping for Laura.
Oh, was when you matched together.
It was like we had matched already, but then like 2 days later was this dress shopping trip.
Yep.
And he messaged me again to like set up a date.
I love this. And then you were seeing Laura for her wedding
And I was
dress.
with like Kyle, Laura,
my
another
gosh.
Stanford friend who also
Sure.
knew him. So I have this such a strong memory
Of course.
like being with like Kyle and me being like, "Look at this message."
Yeah, you messaged me.
Yeah.
We're talking. We have a date.
Oh my God, I guess we're going to go out. This is so funny.
And Laura was your maid of honor at your wedding? Or what?
I didn't have a formal wedding party, but she gave the
your
speech. Yes.
which was iconic, and we're going to get into that.
She's an icon.
And she's the reason I know you because my
Yes.
fiance
Kyle.
knows Kyle, knows
Yes.
her, and you know her, and then that's how we've all
Yes,
become
and
friends.
I probably met Kyle around the same time that
Okay.
I first met Adam.
When he was wearing vests, Kyle's
That
vest
sounds
phase.
right. I think he was like when he was hosting at a restaurant.
When he
and
was, yep.
I've
Maitre
seen
d'
many.
is what he likes to say.
Sorry, I've seen many versions of Kyle.
I'm sure over
we've
the
really
years.
we've really grown up together.
You know what? That's the beauty of aging in New York City.
It really
You
is.
kind of have to grow up at some
Yeah.
point. Okay, so you went on your first date, and how was it? Like butterflies?
great.
Like, were you nervous? Were you like?
I was nervous but excited.
Okay.
I had just come out of like a few months of really not dating at all.
Okay.
I had dated someone briefly, but it didn't seem promising at the end of like the previous year.
Yeah.
And then when that ended, I was like just really depressed for a while.
You were on the no phase. Like, I'm not
yeah,
dating. Taking
and I
a
was
break.
just like, I need a break. I need to focus on myself. I need
Yeah.
to like feel really good. And so I had just sort of emerged from that period.
From your cocoon.
Yes, and this was the like second date that I went on
Okay.
after being like, okay, I'm going to open myself up again. And so the fact that I had seen him in person
Yes.
and knew he was cute
Yeah.
and also that we had mutual social connections, I it was just like raised the bar. I was like, oh,
100%.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I mean,
because online dating is a stranger and it
Yes.
could go a lot of different ways.
yeah, and like the number of times, where you might match with someone on an app and then you show up and the minute they open their mouths, you're like,
You
it's a
know.
no.
You know.
So I knew
Yes.
that it wasn't going to be an automatic no.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we were going to have an actual
Sure.
connection, but
But you knew
I
it-
went in with like a good attitude.
Yeah,
for
there was
that
going to be like
reason.
something positive could come out of
Exactly.
this. So you had your first date, and right away were you like, I want to date him?
Yeah.
Or was it sort of like, oh my gosh, let's see how this goes. I want to date other people. Like, how did it?
I mean, I didn't
transpire from
immediately
there?
like cut off the possibility of going
Sure.
out with other people or anything. But I was excited. Like
Okay.
I texted
Good.
Laura that, and I'm excited. This went actually really, really well.
Yeah.
We both openly expressed that we were shocked that it had gone so
sure.
well.
Especially
and
after all this time of knowing each circling each other's
Exactly.
orbits.
Yes. And we made a plan like at the end of our first date for a second date.
Yeah. Which is always a good
which
sign.
is the best sign.
100%. And when was your second date?
It must have been maybe that weekend. I think we met on a Tuesday.
2 dates in a week?
I think it was that weekend.
Wow. Okay, so
I
it went really well.
Yeah.
And then I read in the New York Times that's when you became official, like after your second date.
No. It was a few months later.
Oh, okay, got it. Maybe I totally misread it.
Yeah,
I was
no.
like, wow. Okay, so it wasn't that quickly.
No.
Okay, that feels much more appropriate.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I know that she loves like rom-coms and love stories, but that feels like very quick.
No, it was still, we had a few months of like.
Yeah, the fun of beginning to date.
Yeah, of beginning to date. Just leaving ourselves open, but it felt intentional.
Yes.
And I think on our third or fourth date, we had a conversation where it was like, what are you looking for?
Yeah,
and
what do you want?
I was very open. Like, I'm not, rushing to the altar, but I want a partner.
Yeah.
And that's my priority.
Yeah.
So if you are not interested in the possibility of that, then
we don't need to keep doing
let's
this.
not do this.
Yeah. Let's not waste each other's time.
Exactly.
And then fast forward, COVID hits.
Yes.
And so now you have a long distance relationship, kind of, because you're in one borough, he's in another borough.
I'm in Brooklyn, he's in Manhattan. And it was, our 1-year anniversary was about a week into the lockdown.
Oh, wow. And you weren't living together,
we weren't
obviously.
living together.
So you were totally separate.
Yes.
And like everyone else, like not really seeing people
Not seeing
indoors,
anyone.
not having dinner. Like I don't even want to go back to that traumatic
I know.
period.
Can you believe it's like
No.
5 years to this week?
I can't. I only know because I met Kyle right after lockdown.
Right. Yes.
Like lockdown was March and we met in May. So that's
Yeah.
the only reason I know it's 5 years, but it's like,
It's crazy.
it's wild to remember the life that we lived, that we
I
all
know.
lived through.
It's absolutely
You know?
wild. And I think it was definitely like put relationships to the test.
100%. Sink or swim.
Yeah.
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like you are in it or this is not going to work. Because you're
Or-
also seeing people in like everyone dealt with it differently
Yes.
as well. Like dealing with stress and then there's medical and there's your work. And like, I mean, world was like upside down in a lot of different ways.
Exactly. Our whole like social fabric was upended.
Yep.
And it was either like your relationship is going to come through this and be stronger, or the flaws and incompatibilities in this relationship are going to be exposed.
Shine right through. Yeah,
Yeah.
the sunlight is going to
Exactly.
come right out through the cracks.
Exactly.
So you guys would have dates in COVID.
Yes. For the first few weeks, I think we were completely
Of course.
separated. Of
Isolated,
course, when we
everybody, yeah.
didn't understand, like, is this just going to be a
Yeah.
2-week thing? And then
Well,
it became clear
remember that phase when we were all like, 2 weeks
and
later,
then
we'll
you're
go
like
back to normal.
a year and a half later.
Yeah.
So I think quickly we all realized
Yeah.
that this was going to be our new normal for a while.
Yeah.
And so he started walking because he was very COVID conscious.
Yeah, of course.
And also his father was sick at the time. And so it was like very important that
Yeah.
he not
Pass anything,
pass
anywhere.
anything.
100%.
Yeah.
And we still didn't
Yeah.
really know anything. So
Right,
like, why
exactly.
take a risk?
For the first
if-
while, it was still unclear, you
Yeah.
know, how this thing spreads
Yep.
and
what it could
is safe.
do.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And none of us were vaccinated. So he started walking from Gramercy to Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, over the Manhattan Bridge. Luckily, he loves to walk.
I mean, is that like a couple of miles?
Yeah, it
That's
took
like a walk.
90 minutes, 2
Oh,
hours.
wow.
I mean, it was a long walk.
Yeah.
He we always laugh about it because he's like, it sounds so romantic, but actually, like, I love walks.
Yeah,
I
but it
love
can
long
still be
walks.
romantic and
It's
you can
both.
enjoy
It's
long
both.
walks.
Yes.
Kyle's never walked to me, not beyond like the kitchen to ask me to get him something. So like it is romantic.
No, it is. It is.
Kyle's like,
yeah.
taxi, like right away.
That would be me. I'm more like Kyle.
Most of
Yeah.
us. That's why I'm saying it's romantic because it's not what most people do.
No, he
You know
did.
what I mean?
So we spent a lot of COVID walking.
Yeah.
And I did not walk to him. He also lived in a studio at the time, and my
Okay.
apartment was tiny, but
Yeah.
at least it had, a door.
Yes, space.
So when we both needed to work from home, we had an ability to do that.
The opportunity to do
Yeah.
that together. It's just so sweet that like that love kind of came out of that time. And then you dated for quite a while before you got engaged.
Yes.
And when and how did the engagement happen?
So we got engaged at the end of June 2024.
Okay. So 5 years in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we were having conversations
Of
about
course.
marriage, for a few years. It's a funny thing when you meet when you're, in your 30s.
Yeah.
I'm sure you understand. Like, you have established lives.
100%. Routines.
You have routines. And so it's a question of like, especially when you're already living together, like what is what is the point? Like, why are we going to do this? Why are we going to
100%.
invest resources into it?
If everything's already great and we're both happy.
Yeah. And like, what is it going to mean for us if we do that? And so it was very intentional. We spent a lot of time talking about it. But I just sort of realized that it was something that I wanted.
Yep.
And I think he was a little more agnostic on it.
Yeah.
But it came down to like, it was important to me.
Yeah. And that's how relationships go.
Yeah, that's how relationships work.
Similarly, Kyle was the same.
Yeah.
He was sort of like waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was like, I'll do it eventually. Like, we have a life together. We live together. We love each other. We love our families.
We're committed to each other.
We're committed.
Already...
We're not going like,
exactly.
What's this ring? Although he did a very good job. But like, what? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what's that going to change?
Right.
But I'm curious, what has it changed now that you're married? Like, does it feel different for you?
So, like, in so many ways, no.
Yeah.
Because,
it's
as you said, like, we were living the same life. We already lived together. We were already, been together over 5 years before we got engaged. But I do feel more settled. I feel that little bit more secure.
Yeah.
And I think he's found that he actually likes the feeling of it more than I think he wasn't sure how he would feel or if it would make a difference at all. But I think he's just like, okay, like we've made this decision. It's so clear. Like even if it was clear before, there is something about standing in front of your communities and declaring that intention. And like also for him, like this is his first time wearing like any jewelry.
Ever.
Basically. No, I'm sure he's worn some.
Sure,
it's like
here
a
and
pose.
there, but it's not his thing. Yeah.
Now he's wearing a ring every day and he thought he was going to hate it. And he's like, I like it.
Kind of likes it.
Yeah.
I love that. Same for, I had never worn, I don't wear anything.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I
You're
can't
like,
wear this big rock. And it's like big.
Yeah.
And I was like, I cannot wear this every day.
And then you get used to it.
And you
there's
love
a
it.
comfort.
Like I take it off when I go to the gym. And literally one time I was like, oh, I lost it. Like there's like a comfort in knowing that it's there, like knowing your person is there in a way.
Exactly. There is like a comfort. So I think that's what we've both found, that we're just like, this is it. We've committed to this.
Yeah. David's Bridal knows how important it is to find the perfect dress for any occasion. Whether its style is classic, modern, or uniquely you, they have you covered. With collections of bridal accessories, dresses, and outfits for the entire wedding party, everyone will be dressed to impress on your special day. At David's Bridal, love is in every stitch, from the initial sketch to the final look. Each style is designed with beautiful craftsmanship and stunning details. Every wedding gown, bridesmaid's look, prom dress, and special occasion styled in between features handcrafted details filled with love. With a wide range of beautiful dresses at affordable prices, you don't have to break the bank to look perfect on your big day. Come see the magic in person, find your dream dress with the help of our expert stylists, and experience David's commitment to making every bride feel special, no matter their budget. Book an appointment and join Diamond Loyalty to save 15% on your first purchase. Earn points towards special rewards and more at davidsbridal.com. And you were engaged in the summer of 24?
Yes.
And married in the winter of 25.
Yes.
Like very
Less than a year.
Short-term engagement. Was that intentional?
Yes. So he, proposed end of June.
With his grandmother's?
With his great-grandmother's.
His great-grandmother's
ring.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that had been sitting in a family safe for like decades. Yeah, his grandfather's mother.
I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the sentiment of that is like
Yes.
also part of why we do this. You know what I mean?
Like, and it like we didn't even reset it. It's
the actual
exact.
Let me see her.
Exact ring.
Wow. It's beautiful.
It's really pretty. It's really classic.
And the sentiment behind it is
so it's so sentimental and it's special, I think, to have a piece of that family history. It's like very moving.
Yeah.
He proposed in Greenpoint on the pier after a nice dinner.
Perfect.
And then surprised me with a handful of friends and like our families.
Exactly what you want.
Yeah,
like
at a bar in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was like, this person knows me and he knows the things that I would want. And that was really lovely. And then I think pretty quickly after, he was like, I don't really want to spend, like, it's taken us so long to decide to do this.
To get to this point.
why should we spend a million years planning a wedding, being engaged?
Yeah.
And I think quickly realized, like, you're going to fill the time that you have.
Yep. Say that again. It's true.
Yeah. Like and I know myself, and I knew that I was going to throw myself into the project of wedding planning. So if it was
a 2-year project,
I just think it would have taken over my like psyche a little bit, maybe
100%.
Too much.
Yeah.
So, and also I knew that I did not want to add the stress of weather into the equation with venue. So once we decided that, I'm just like, I have an anxiety disorder. I can't be checking the weather obsessively every day. 3 times a day. And I still was, to be clear, even though it didn't really matter.
I was like, it was all indoors. You didn't have a rain plan, cold plan.
Right, exactly. But I was like, but for the photos, like if it's like, a rainstorm.
I understand that because you had a lot of New York City photos that were not your venue, which to me is also very smart in some regard because your venue is a restaurant and it's a little bit darker and has such a vibe that is what it is. But a lot of almost like 1/3 of your photos are not in that space, which sounds like it was strategy on your point.
Yes. We really, I think very quickly we realized that what we wanted our wedding to be was we want it to feel like New York.
Yeah.
Because that is where we live. That's where we met. That's where our communities are. And Adam also was just like, I don't want to schlep anywhere.
Yeah. I don't want a destination. Don't put me on a plane.
Which I would have been open to, but he just didn't want that. So it was like, okay, well, if we're going to do that, then let's really lean into the city element of it. And so that's how
through the photos though. But I feel like the tip of that is so great because even in your gallery, I'm like, oh, they're in the subway, they're in the park. Like it looked like you got married in the city. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm so glad because that was the intention.
And it worked.
We picked the Hotel Chelsea to get ready at, which is such an iconic
But you live in the city, so you could have done it at your apartment. I'm curious why you didn't. I love that you went there and had that moment, but how did that decision come across?
To be honest, I wanted a special moment.
A staycation?
Yeah, I wanted a staycation. Also, just the idea of having to get in Ubers between the venue, like when all in my dress.
Yes.
I wasn't really interested in that. And also, I was like, our apartment's going to be a mess.
Sure, all the stuff and all the prep and everything.
Makeup in.
Yeah.
So Hotel Chelsea was just the perfect spot.
Yeah.
And it ended up being great because we ended up being able to do a lot of family photos
there
in the suites.
Got it.
At Hotel Chelsea.
Yeah. And it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Did you go to the spa? They have a brand new spa.
I did not go to the spa, but we did take photos up by the spa on the roof.
Yeah.
We went all over. Our photographer, shout out to Haley Ringo Price, our photographer, who was absolutely incredible and knew the hotel really well. So we had that. Then we were very intent that we wanted to take photos on the subway. And we wanted to take the subway to the venue.
And you did.
And we did.
And?
I loved it.
Did you get a lot of congratulations, a lot of love?
Yes. Some people in our families were very much like, this is a bad idea.
I'm sure.
Something's gonna happen.
Told people
I'm anxious.
before.
Yeah, we're like, we're so excited. And they were like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, get a car. What are you doing?
Yeah, and we were like, nope, we're doing this. First of all, it's just literally the fastest way to get to the venue.
Most efficient, for sure.
Yeah, because the one train is on the block of the Hotel Chelsea and the one train is across the street from Shun Lee.
Yeah, like literally what else?
Yeah, it just made sense. And the thing that I love about New Yorkers is that New Yorkers value efficiency. So everyone thinks that New Yorkers are mean.
No, they're not. They're
not.
Want efficiency.
They don't want you to waste their time or their space.
Correct.
So the funniest thing would happen was like the one train was more crowded than I thought it would be.
On a weekend.
In the middle of the day. And so people would like yell like, move in. And then they would see that it was a wedding party there with our 2 photographers and a handful of people.
And your dress.
And I'm in my dress and veil. And they would be like, oh my God, congratulations.
But first
you
efficient.
look so beautiful. Yeah. But everyone was so kind. And Adam was so self-conscious. He was like, sorry, this is cringe.
Of course.
And all these like 2 men were like, no, man, it's not cringe.
No.
Everyone loved it. It felt like the city was part of our day. So I was just delighted.
Yeah.
And then we took photos at Lincoln Center.
I mean, you did all the iconic things, but I think for a lot of couples who struggle with this, like it's a brilliant way to go. Like if you live in New York and want to have that vibe, like give yourself the time in your hotel,
Yes.
in your transportation, and go to the iconic places
Do
you want
not
to go
limit
to.
yourself. Do
Like,
not limit
why
yourself
not?
to your venue.
Yeah, like absolutely think beyond that. And then your venue has a place, but that doesn't limit your photography. Like it literally, I was like, her
Exactly.
wedding is New York City because
my
you went to
gosh.
all those iconic places.
Yeah, and it was really nice also just to get pretty much all the family photos
Yeah.
out of the way. I really didn't want to miss cocktail hour.
Yeah, it's the best part of a
So,
wedding.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
why
I
did-
love cocktail hour.
Yes, who doesn't? I was like, give me all the dim sum, please, and lychee martinis. Like, we had the best time. Okay, so did you like, dislike, or neutral about wedding planning?
I loved some parts of it
Okay.
and hated some parts of it.
Okay, what did you love? What did you hate?
I mean, I loved all the little details.
Yep.
I loved doing the research to
Okay.
like find places to look for outfits or find venues that might be cool. Like I went down a whole rabbit hole on, alt bridal sites to
Yep.
try to find couples that had weddings in New York City at more non-traditional
Yep.
venues.
Were you on wedding Reddit? Because that's a whole other.
Oh, I was a bit, but I got really easily overwhelmed.
Yes.
But there is a whole New York City
Yep.
wedding Reddit, which was super helpful.
Yeah.
And I did appreciate.
You're like, thank you for all of your time and efforts.
Yeah, people really put in the labor, and I'm like, thank you for your service.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I ended up finding our venue though on Anti-Bride.
Okay. Because it's not like a typical classic venue.
Yes, it's not a venue. It's not on any of the venue
Yeah.
sites because it's a Chinese
restaurant.
It's a Chinese restaurant.
100%.
And they do events,
Yeah.
but mostly more like fashion parties,
Yes.
I'd say, than
traditional
weddings. But there are a handful of weddings that you can find online that have been done there and like bar mitzvahs.
Yeah.
But mostly it's, the town and country holiday party dinner.
Sure, those sorts of things.
Or like W Magazine's
Yeah.
like 50th anniversary.
Like a launch or this or
Yeah.
that, but not full weddings with ceremony. I mean, because you did everything on
there.
site. Yeah.
It was a squeeze, but we did it.
How many people?
We had like 185.
There was 185
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not think that was the number you were going to say. In my head, I'm like 150, 160. Okay, so you really packed us in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it was worth it. I mean, the ceremony was so beautiful.
That was like my favorite part.
It was
honestly.
really it was like almost because we were all there together and it was love first. It wasn't like pomp and circumstance or sort of like it was so sentimental. And when you walked in and Adam walked in and I looked at Adam when he saw you, like I don't know. It was just like Kyle and I in the back corner just crying and like the whole
Everyone
room
cried.
crying.
Everyone was crying.
And then
We were all crying.
And then grandma was there and like the 7 blessings. I have to say your rabbi like almost makes me want to convert to Judaism.
Isn't she incredible? Shout out Rabbi Samantha Frank. She's
incredible. I've done a lot of Jewish weddings in my career. I've heard hundreds. Not one like this. I don't know if it's because she's younger. She's more
she's like a young progressive rabbi.
Yes.
She also is a friend. Her husband is someone that I grew up with at summer camp.
Got it. So the bond there was deeper than because it's like the way she explained things and even the way she read things. I was like, I've never heard it like that in all of my career.
She was so wonderful to work with. And I think having the Jewish element was so important to us, but we still really wanted it to feel like us.
Yes.
And I do feel like we achieved that.
100%. A lot of times it feels like it has to be one or the other.
Exactly.
But it really felt, young and progressive and like very inclusive. There was no sort of like us versus them,
That
which
makes me
sometimes
so
with
happy.
religion it feels like
Absolutely.
this
It can
is
be
ours
alienating.
and you're witnessing it, but you're not included in it.
Right.
But literally at cocktail hour, we were like, should we be converting to Judaism? Like,
You can be
do you
honorary.
have
You're
like
welcomed into the
do you have
tribe.
like a temple that we should go to?
We'll
Like,
take you.
should we do the 7 blessings? We were like,
in.
these are like really great. What was your favorite part about the wedding?
Okay. It might have been the ceremony,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah.
Because as you're alluding to, everyone was really like smashed in there. I mean, we had to basically walk single file down the aisle.
Did they tell you how many people you could comfortably fit and you were like, we're just going to keep adding?
They were
or
just,
did they just
were
say
so
like, do whatever
chill.
you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like, we can fit 200.
Yeah. They said 200?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
On top of each other, yeah.
On my lap.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think probably 150 would have been a little less
Yeah, but 150 to 180, like.
And honestly, there was something about the close quarters of the ceremony and the fact that, people were in the booths because there's built-in elements in a restaurant you can't move.
Correct.
That I felt truly held by our community.
Because we were there.
Yeah, everyone was there and everyone was laughing. We were making eye contact and I could see people crying. And like, it was just so fun. The ceremony was fun. I loved the exchange of vows.
Very sweet.
And then, I don't know, I also loved our dinner.
Yeah. I mean, who gets delicious Chinese food? People are always like, wedding food isn't good. But if you're at a Chinese restaurant.
Guys. I'm like, why doesn't everyone get married at a Chinese restaurant?
Because it was so good.
The amount of food. And this is good Chinese. I mean, oh God.
And for people who don't know the Jewish-Chinese connection, can you explain? Because people are like, why would you get married at a Chinese restaurant if you are a white girl?
Yes. I think especially in New York City, there is this like kinship between the Chinese American community and the Jewish American community. For anyone who is unaware, a big tradition of American Jews is to go eat Chinese food on Christmas. Yep,
because you're the only ones there.
Yes, we're the only ones there, and Chinese restaurants are one of the only things that stay open.
Correct, because they don't celebrate American Christmas.
Exactly. They don't celebrate American Christmas either. So there is just this like connection
100%.
that formed honestly out of that.
Yeah.
And so it just felt so right to me, and also just so New York. This is New York's, Shun Lee West is New York's first fine dining Chinese establishment. I think the other location. But this location.
Like as a brand.
Yeah, opened in 81 and it was the second.
Wow.
The
in
second.
New York.
Yeah, in New York City.
Okay.
And so like my grandparents used to go to Shun Lee West and have dinner before going to Lincoln Center for a show.
So there's a memory there.
Yeah,
it's tied
Adam's
to
father
history.
was one of his favorite restaurants.
Yeah.
And so again, there is just this like history of Jews being very dedicated patrons to Chinese restaurants.
Food. I think I'm literally culturally Jewish.
Yeah,
for
I think
sure.
I could see it. I think
every
you
night.
Get the vibe.
Kyle thought I was when we first went on a date because my last name is Meyer.
Yeah.
And then when he found out I wasn't, I think he like thought about breaking up with me for like a brief second because he always sort of was like, I thought I would just marry like a good Jewish man.
I mean, again, you're both welcomed.
Thank you. The food was delicious. Our server was so nice. And I kept
Everyone
being like,
is so kind there.
I kept being like, hi, here's $20. And can we get some more vegetables? And can we get some more soup? I mean, like, who gets soup dumplings at their wedding?
The soup dumplings, the sesame filet mignon. Oh my God. I like dream of it.
All of it. It was so delicious. And I just was like, this is thebomb.com. How many outfits did you have? Two. I mean, I know this question because I saw them both, but like I'm asking.
I had two. More than that would have felt just like too excessive.
And you like leave the party and you're not there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted one quick change nothing else. You know, I made the hair, the makeup. I was like, just the jewelry all stayed the same. Just zip on, zip off.
Zip on, zip off. And then for the late night food, they pass like savory food, but then they pass desserts, the iconic black and white cookies.
Yes, we brought in
Did you
our
bring
own
that
desserts.
In? Okay, because I was like, this doesn't feel at all Chinese, but
so the
very
thing that
New York.
they do that we did at the end of dinner was lychee and pineapple.
Yes.
And then we also ordered custom fortune cookies.
Okay.
So they were dipped in chocolate and we wrote like 4 of our own fortunes.
Yes, which were so cute.
So that was at the table. And then we figured everyone's going to have eaten a lot. Like we don't need a full dessert immediately. Correct. And then there were just little past mini desserts. And the black and white cookies, you were there so you know, but our reception was there's 2 rooms in Shun Lee West. And the reception, like the band, was in a room that is black and white checkers on the floor, walls, and ceiling.
Yes. They like matched perfectly.
So we were like black and white cookies. You have to.
And they were I ate so many black and white
so
cookies.
Did I. Delicious.
And then, so was it also your idea to have candy on this cookie plate?
That was my mother-in-law.
Okay, winning idea of the wedding.
Yes, I thought it was brilliant.
It was brilliant. I've never seen it before. And I literally was like, is that a Whopper?
Yes.
And it was.
I know.
I mean, it's all I needed at that moment. Well, and I was so happy.
I love a past dessert because I feel like you don't want to take people out of the party.
Correct.
And I love when someone just hands me something delicious
Yes.
to like eat or
quick and
drink,
easy.
and I can just like
Yes.
have it and then be on my way and keep dancing.
And that's what it was. Like I was dancing. I saw the cookies. Of course I did that. And then I saw like the candy tray go by and I was like, hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Those are Whoppers. And
Shout
I
out
haven't
to my
had
mother-in-law, Pam. That was all her. She really killed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Pam,
she was very helpful with a lot of the details. She's like a great party planner, and my parents aren't in the city.
Yeah.
So a lot of that like
She was,
on
like,
the
boots
ground.
on the ground.
She was here.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what's your advice? I feel like it is becoming a trend. All the inquiries we're getting for this year, people want to get married in 6 months. They're not interested. I don't know if
That's
you're
so
like ahead of a trend, but
interesting.
it is a trend.
Yeah.
So I'm curious your advice for people, because you did it from like June to, or I guess July to February. It's
Yeah.
like not that long.
No.
What's your advice so people don't lose their mind in a truncated period?
I think you just have to be willing to make decisions when something pops up that you like.
Yeah. Like
I
if
think-
you're a slow decision maker.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But I find it, as someone who suffers from paralysis around decisions, I actually find a deadline to be helpful.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, look for a dress. At a certain point,
Yeah.
you got to just decide.
Otherwise, you're not going to have a dress.
Right. Otherwise, you're
Yes.
not going to have a dress.
Yeah.
So I narrowed it down quickly. I went to a lot of bridal appointments by myself. I was like,
Oh.
efficiency.
Without friends or
Yeah.
opinions.
Yeah.
Oh. And you felt like that was fine.
Oh, it was great. And I got in and
I
out.
love
Some of them, I
that.
was like, oh, great. 2 dresses, try them on. Not for me. Bye.
Wow. And you just like knew. So it forced
Yeah.
efficiency in some ways.
Yes. And then I brought friends and family back in
Sure,
at
for
the
your
end
top
when I had my
choices.
top choices.
Got it. I love that.
Yeah. So I think that, and I think also it's helpful if someone gave me the advice early on that was like, pick your hills to die on and like let the rest go.
Okay. What were your hills?
I feel like for us, it was like that non-traditional
Yes.
venue and vibe.
Yeah. Party first.
Great food.
Like more than.
Great food.
Okay.
I cared about the food. I cared about the alcohol.
Yeah.
The rest, I was like, band, DJ,
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
It can be pretty. It can be not your hills.
yeah. But I cared about the vibe. And luckily, doing a restaurant was super helpful with that
Yeah.
because it was like, we got the vibe, we have the food,
It's
we
built
have
in.
the alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, that was all just
There.
there.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, I can be pretty amenable on most of the rest of it.
Yeah. And were you on or off at your wedding? I feel like you host parties for work. You're always in and about all these people.
Somewhere in
like,
between.
you know what I
think I
mean?
tried to not be on.
Yeah.
And I think I achieved that. I think the only time that I felt on was, as things do, things run long. There were just certain things that didn't flow as quickly. And so I got a bit stressed out when like dinner was running late and people weren't getting up to go to
But only you knew.
Right. Only I knew.
Like,
so I had like
the
a
speeches
moment.
were good.
The speeches
I
were
have to
great.
say, like, they were, like, the speeches are good and there's food on the table.
Well, this was something actually that Adam and I felt really strongly about. We had been to, I think, 2 different friends' weddings
Yeah.
where they had a lot of speeches, but it felt like programming.
Yes.
Like they were good. The speakers were talented.
Yeah.
There was someone emceeing.
Oh, okay.
And so at our friend Amanda's wedding, they had a friend kind of MC. So
Yeah.
you weren't feeling like anything was lagging.
Yeah.
And so we knew that because of space constraints, we had to have the dancing in a separate room
Yeah.
from the dinner. And so we decided, okay, then we're going to have like programming.
Yeah.
And we had our friend, amazing friend, Livia.
But she kind of moved the whole
MC.
night along.
Yeah, she
Like,
moved the whole night along.
It felt very
Exactly.
natural. And every time I saw her, I was like, ooh, what's coming?
I know.
What's,
Exactly.
What's she going to say now?
So she was a lifesaver and all of our speakers did great.
Yeah, they were. And Laura's speech. I mean, we just have to talk about
We
this
have
speech.
to.
So she literally was with you on the airplane. She is the reason kind of you knew
Yes.
of Adam in the beginning because they
Yes.
went to college together. And she pulled out the receipts.
Oh, yes. I knew she was going to do this, and God bless her. I mean, we used to sit all day, every day at work and
Yep.
G-chat.
Yeah, that's like what you did.
Yes. So she had all the G-chat transcripts. She had texts from over the years.
And both of you worked as journalists,
Yes.
writers at that time. So like writing is your medium and
Yes.
how you communicate
And
most
we're like
efficiently
chatty
and effectively.
Cathy's.
Yes, the two of you.
And
The two of
I
you,
know,
chatty
I know.
Cathy.
No. You know me.
So quiet and demure.
So quiet. And she had some of these texts.
From like over a decade ago.
Yes.
Like she went to the archives.
She had them printed out on a poster board
It
and
was
pulled
iconic.
out the poster board.
And
at
the best
end.
part is she was also like Is she 8 months?
Yes.
Did she have the baby? She was like 8 months pregnant.
She's due next month.
8 months pregnant in a beautiful wrap dress. I was like, come on, Belly.
That's a 2-piece retrofit.
A 2-piece? I saw the thing, but I didn't know. Good for her. She looked amazing.
It was like kind of sheer, sparkly black. She looked hot.
Yes.
She looked hot. She's
8 months pregnant and hot.
I was so proud of her. She was like, I'm going for it.
And she did.
And I loved it.
And she got up for that speech, and then her husband had the prop that she saved till the very end.
Yes.
And I was like, this is...
People were screaming.
We were screaming. Of course. It was like iconic because she's like... And she said the date, and she read your text, and then her text, and then Adam was watching. And these are things I'm sure obviously you know, but did he know? He must not have known about that. Like, you don't share these kind of
I think we had joked about it a little. He hadn't seen them, but the
actual messages.
He did know that there were all of these texts about him over the years because of this like connection to our friend Kate. Like he was an inside joke.
100%.
So,
and on his wedding day, he was the outside joke. I mean, it was like so sweet and so beautiful. And the whole wedding, it was so much fun.
Oh.
It really was like such a joy. I'm very rarely a guest at a wedding.
I know. It was so fun having you guys there. Like, you also were just my very kind pro bono, like, wedding guru throughout the whole planning experience.
My pleasure.
And when I had, like, a real sticking point, I would go to you, and you were so generous with your time, and
I just wanted you to have the best wedding ever, so of course it was my pleasure.
But it was so meaningful to have you and Kyle there.
Your
and
wedding
you both
angel
looked
or devil,
so good.
Oh, you liked?
Obsessed.
We weren't gonna not show up and show out.
No, I knew you were going to come correct.
Yeah,
but I was honestly, I told everyone, I was like, the greatest gift you could give me on my wedding is to come dressed to the nines. Out. Yes.
I know. We just saw some of the photos and I was like, oh my gosh. And
you
it's
guys
so
looked amazing.
Us. It's like me looking away and Kyle being fabulous. And it's like, oh yeah, that's our dynamic right there. Or like me eating a cookie. I'm like, oh, you didn't need to get that. Like, like go away. I had like too many cookies. No, you guys looked
so fabulous.
It was such a good time.
Incredible. And I can't wait for yours.
Oh my gosh, it's coming up.
I know.
It's wild. It almost doesn't feel real, if I'm going to be very honest.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like, I'm planning someone else's party because that's what I do. It hasn't
I feel like it's not going to hit you until you're there.
Until it's over? Like,
I don't know, until you're like there and in it, and then you're like, wait, this is different.
Yeah, like this design is for me.
Like, I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor in this very direct way. Like, I'm interested to see if you can let go.
I hear you and I respect you and I feel the same. But I've like hired all of my very good friends.
That's the good thing. You trust.
I trust them and we're at the right venue that I trust. So the goal is...
I am so excited. I think it's going to be the greatest wedding ever and I'm
after yours.
Excited.
Come on. I mean, you got engaged after us and got married before us.
Well, we were
dead.
quick. We were quick.
I loved it.
If our wedding could even like hold a candle to yours, I will be pleased.
Stop. We had the best
I already have a dress
ever.
for your wedding.
Ooh,
so.
What color is it?
It is like pink and seafoam green.
Good.
Yes.
That's what we want.
Yes. Well,
yes.
It was summer black tie, and I had actually gotten this dress originally. I thought I might wear it as my second look.
Okay.
And then I realized like my arms didn't quite have enough movement, and it wasn't quite the right vibe. But it's a vintage dress.
Yeah. You're like, she will be worn.
And so I was like, well, I have the perfect event to wear this
Well, I can't
now.
wait to see it.
So I got
it's
it tailored
be
anyway.
So gorgeous. This has been such a joy.
Oh, I
Where
love you.
Can people, I love you. Where can people hear more about your podcast and you, and how can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at EmmaLadyRose, and you can find my podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Love to see it. And you can also find my newsletter on Substack.
Ooh.
It is called Rich Text.
Okay.
And that's at clareandemma.substack.com.
I love it. Well, thank you so much and congratulations again.
Thank you.
And now it's time for Ask Jove. And I couldn't be more excited to be in studio with my dear friend Sloan for... Ask Jove. What do we have today, Sloan?
We have Vanessa from Houston, Texas. She and her partner are considering a first look before the ceremony, but part of them want to keep it traditional and wait until the aisle moment.
Yeah.
Can you weigh in on the pros and cons of both options?
I love both options, and I think you have to do what's best for you, but you want to think long term. So one decision is going to impact, basically, are you going to have a busier morning or a busier afternoon. So if you do a first look, I hear it all the time. I don't want to lose out on that feeling of seeing my person at the ceremony. But I don't think anything replaces that moment. You know, like you're there together, your friends and family, the music, the emotion, the wardrobe, like that moment is never going to be taken away from you. And I think doing a first look, again, there's no music, there's no guests, of course there's emotion, but it's a different setup completely. And so I think, I'm a big fan of first looks. I think if you're open to the idea, it saves you time, it maximizes your efficiency, and you get to enjoy your cocktail hour. So if you do your first look and you're still nervous, then take space. Like after your first look, after your photos with your wedding party, after your photos with your family, take space. Have a separation for a little while so that you can kind of build that momentum up again so that you kind of do see them for the first time in that way after a little bit of distance. So the pro for me is time, right? You do all of your photos before the ceremony. That way you get to enjoy cocktail hour. You get to be present with your friends and family. If you are a traditionalist and you want to wait, I think it's beautiful. But know that most of your cocktail hour is now going to be for photos because you can't really take wedding party photos together. You can't take family photos together. And you can't take, obviously, couple portrait photos together because you aren't seeing each other. So that could take 30, 45, even an hour of your time, depending on how many people. So do you want to miss cocktail hour? That's the first question you have to think about. And if you're down to miss cocktail hour and you really want it to happen, then you do have a lighter morning because you're not doing all your photos in the getting ready phase. So I don't know. Did you do a first look?
No.
No. You waited. You're traditional girly?
Well, I mean, we lived together for so many years before we got married, and it just felt like a really special moment that we were like, let's approach that differently than like we normally would, right? I think that
I know I'm surprised a little bit.
I know, right? We very much like wanted to walk down the aisle together. Like that was like an initial plan. And then once we decided that we would have, you know, both of our parents walk each of us down, it just kind of became this thing of like, well, what if we just didn't see each other before? We also got married earlier in the day.
Yeah, so you had time.
And we had time
You didn't have
together.
Like classic 6-hour party, 5-hour. Yeah.
No. And I really enjoyed that we did that.
Yeah.
Like in retrospect, I was like, oh, okay, that felt really nice because it made the day longer for us in a different way than it does for, you know, other couples that do it in a 6-hour block.
And you didn't miss anything because you had all day. But in a classic scenario, would you have done it if you literally were 6 p.m. to midnight?
Yeah, I think
you still
so.
would have done
I think so.
Okay, I love this.
Yeah, did I cry the entire time down the aisle? Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
It was like just instant tears,
Bawling.
but it was
Did Jose
really,
cry?
Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as I did.
I can't see it happening, so I'm trying to
just a little teary-eyed.
That's all we need. Just show me you love me with a little tear.
Show me you love me.
Not a crocodile tear, just like a little tear.
Yeah. And it felt really nice to like walk into a space and feel so embraced. And so I think like to your point that you said earlier, like that feeling of being surrounded by so much love, it's never going to go away regardless of how you manage that walk down the aisle. It's always going to be so special and feel so incredible. So.
100%. And it's just knowing yourself, you know? Are you doing that because it's what you're supposed to do or it's because it's what you want to do? You know, like Kyle and I are getting ready together and I think we're walking down the aisle together, I think. But like you do what feels right for you and your partner. You can definitely look at tradition and things that people have done for ideas or inspiration, but have an honest conversation. And if one of you is super sentimental, you know, you make it work. We had one groom and he literally said nothing for 9 months. And we were at the timeline meeting and he was like, I don't want to see you until the ceremony.
Aww.
And I almost cried. I was like, A, you speak, and B, like that is so sentimental. And of course she like fought a little bit. She was like, no, we're not doing that. And he was like, it's my only request. And I was like, well, then we're doing it. And they did miss most of cocktail hour. And they kind of fought about that a little bit. But like, it is what it is. You know, you have to make a choice and you stick to it.
Yep.
But whatever you decide, go with your gut and it'll be great.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well, that's it for today. And wasn't that fun? This episode is brought to you by David's Bridal. At David's, love is in every stitch. From the initial sketch to the final look, each style is designed with beautiful craftsmanship and stunning details. Every wedding gown, bridesmaid look, prom dress, and special occasion styled in between features handcrafted details filled with love. Come see the magic in person, book an appointment, and join Diamond Loyalty to save 15% on your first purchase. Earn points towards special rewards and more at davidsbridal.com. Don't forget to send your questions. Again, any questions, send them our way to hi@jovemeyer.com, and maybe I will answer them on air. If you can, send a voice memo. I love to hear your voice.
Weddings-ish.
Thank you again for listening or watching Weddings-ish with Jove. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're also super grateful to Mel Flannery for the music on the podcast. She created, produced, and designed all of the music. And don't forget, you can watch Weddings-ish with Jove on Love Stories TV, YouTube, or streaming TV channel. Visit lovestoriestv.com/live for the list of streaming apps.
Weddings-ish. Weddings-ish.